Wait For It is a show about the way we feel about our bodies. Consequently, each episode may include references to gaining and losing weight, eating disorders, weight loss surgery, and weight stigma. If these topics are triggering to you, please take care while listening. We have links to support resources for anyone who may need them in our show notes. Wait for it. I don't know why I'm checking all your levels after I started. This was the wrong thing to do, but you sound great.
Okay, cool. I can't hear myself at all. Is that a thing about Riverside? I actually am always...
You can, I think, on your own device. I don't know. I still haven't tried. As with the first season of Wait For It, we're concluding this season with our mailbag episode, where we address questions directly from the listening audience. With me is our story editor, Sarah Dealy.
Cool.
Okay, Sarah, I have 2 questions from the mailbag. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This episode is meant to be a breather from the season, as Sarah and I field what are typically little follow-up questions that we didn't address in the show or want to provide more context on. We only have 2 questions for this episode, but the first question is a little easier, so we'll start with a softball.
Good.
And it's actually not a softball. It's like a baseball.
Okay.
But it's like, I would say compared to the second question, it's definitely a softball.
The second question is a steel ball.
The second question is the core of the earth.
Okay.
I'm throwing the core of the earth directly at you.
Great.
So I wouldn't say this is a standard mailbag episode, because the second question brings to light some revelations about myself that we also get into. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and this is Wait For It.
Waiting. You've got mail. Waiting. Wait for it. Mail. Wait for it. Mail. The wait. The mail never stops.
Wait for it. This season of Wait For It is brought to you by Big Fig Mattress. So I have a king-size Big Fig because I love to feel luxurious when I sleep, but also when I'm just hanging out, watching television, scrolling my phone, or when I have company over. This mattress is ready to be supportive. Whether you describe yourself as fat, fluffy, plus-sized, or even big-boned, this mattress is going to hold you up. I was apprehensive to get one at first, but Big Fig offers a 120-night trial just to make sure it's the right mattress for you. And trust me, it won't take you that long to decide that this mattress is the one. Go to the link in our show notes and take the Bed Builder quiz to get exclusive discounts on your new Big Fig. What's up, everybody? It's me, Ronald Young Jr., with a quick note and a request. I want to let you know that Radiotopia's annual fundraiser is happening right now. That's right, it's the time of year where we come to you and ask for your help in keeping this network running. If Wait For It has meant something to you, whether you're a day one listener or a more recent fan, I hope you'll consider donating today at radiotopia.fm/donate. And if you donate, we'll send you a curated playlist from all the Radiotopia producers as a token of our thanks. That's radiotopia.fm/donate. Thank you so much. Wait for it. Okay, so our first question comes from Aaron. Aaron writes, while listening to the Into Thin Air episode, I had an etiquette question. As a guy, is there a polite, non-creepy way to let a large seatmate know that I don't care if their body is coming in contact with me? That's just not something that bothers me, especially in the close confines of a plane where it seems inevitable. I wouldn't want someone making themselves uncomfortable on my account. In the past, if I'm seated next to another wide guy, parentheses, I'm a big guy too with wide shoulders, I might say something joking like, guess we're rubbing shoulders on this flight, but that would feel weird to say to a woman. Thanks, and I love the show, Aaron. So to contextualize this question, I think he's asking about allyship on a plane for fat folks. And let me just start off by saying that this is a wonderful question.
Totally.
I loved this question, and I knew immediately you as a flyer would definitely have something to say about this. So just right off the bat, what do you think? Do you want people talking to you when you're flying, or what does this look like for you?
I feel like the answer to this is pretty simple, and Aaron does not have to overthink it. I totally see where he's coming from of like saying, oh, I don't want to rub shoulders. That might come off weird if you say it to a woman. I think that's a spot on instinct. When I sit down and I feel hostility, it's like they won't make eye contact with me. They're sort of looking away. Or the worst is if somebody like takes the armrest and pushes it down. So I think if you're trying to give a sense of allyship on a plane towards a fat woman, maybe be like, here, I'm going to open the armrest, or just like do it. Just let it be not down would be cool. Another thing, you could just say hi, like, hey, how's it going? In a really friendly way.
Yeah.
Like, just, I acknowledge you. You're a human being. I think that is enough. That to me would signal like, okay, this person actually is like understand.
I think you're right. I think you've nailed all of the positive flying experiences that I've had that have included some version of that. I remember one time I was actually at Tribeca in 2023 when Wait For It got nominated. Shout out to Tribeca. Shout out to Davey Gardner. I was at an event where Aubrey Gordon was speaking with Brittany Luce. I remember I was sitting right in the front, and I was sitting next to another fat person, and we were sitting in those movie theater recliners. And I saw when she sat down, immediately like it looked tight for her, and I was sitting next to her and I had a little bit more room. So I said, hey, I'm gonna put this up. Is that cool with you? And she was like, oh yeah, great, no problem. We didn't say anything else to each other after that. But for me, it was just like, I know this extra room would be nice. So if you don't need this armrest, let's just get it out of here.
Totally.
And let's do that. When I fly, the same thing. I like to sit on a seat that has movable armrests. That's why I like to sit on the aisle, so I have just a little more room to spread out a little bit. One of my biggest irritations is when the flight attendants who do not have to do this, but choose to do this, are like, hey, we're about to take off, so I got to put this armrest down. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you absolutely don't. What is this? Who is this armrest? What safety violation?
The plane is going to actually pummel to the ground.
What do you think's going to happen with this armrest being up? Like, is it going to gouge the person behind me or what? I'm like, if we hit with enough force that this armrest being up causes damage to someone, we're all dead. So that didn't actually prevent anything. So I feel like that happens. But the best story I have, I think, is I got on a plane, and you would love this. I got on a plane, I walked down to the seat, and it was this very straight-sized white woman. She was probably in her late 40s, early 50s, just really together, like just somebody who I would never talk to or associate with, because I would assume that they did not want to talk to me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say this. It's like somebody that you would see shopping at Neiman Marcus. You know what I mean? Just unironically. You know what I mean? I just want to put that in the chat. So
ironically, shopping at Neiman Marcus. I ironically drop $7,000.
So I go and I look and I'm like, oh, here we go. And I brush against her as I'm sitting down. I was like, I'm so sorry. She's like, honey, you are fine. And so I'm like, doing my normal thing where I lean to the aisle. Like, she never actually states like, you can rub up against me, but anytime that I bumped up against her, she made it clear, you are fine, do not worry. And I don't know, for me, the way she was saying it, I'm like, Wait For It didn't exist at this time, Sarah. We'd never done the Into Thin Air episode or anything like that. And I wanted to be like, are you from the future? Like, how do you know to behave this way?
Totally. So I think like, if you don't hate fat people, I'll probably know, you know, like,
yeah.
And honestly, to be completely honest, like I know everybody is in like different stages in their like fat liberation journey, but if a straight sized person on a plane next to me was like, hey, how's it going? Like, we can totally put this armrest up, and was like almost over the top, I would prefer that to being an asshole. So basically, what I'm trying to say is like, it's okay to be a little clumsy in your allyship. We will appreciate it more than just like not making eye contact, shoving the thing down. Like, Aaron, if it's okay if you end up being a little clumsy when you're trying to be nice to a fat person.
Yeah, I think you said it. I think, Aaron, if you're trying to be nice, and a fat person who probably got on a plane have been suffering several indignities, you just being warm and kind to them as they sit down can turn that completely around, turn it all the way around. I think that is, as you said, that's the best you can do. And it's okay if it's not perfect.
Yeah, 100%.
When we come back, the core of the earth. Wait for it. This season of Wait For It is brought to you by Big Fig Mattress. I've been sleeping on a Big Fig for nearly 2 years now, and let me tell you, this mattress is fantastic. As a bigger guy, I've had problems in the past with mattresses that sag over time, but that's not an issue I've had with Big Fig. From the first time I laid on it, I could tell the difference in support. It held me up without being uncomfortable or hard. It has an extra firm mattress edge that gives a bit of a larger sleep surface. It also has something called thermogel cooling technology that, as a person who is almost always running hot, keeps me nice and cool while I sleep. But also, Big Fig is now more than a mattress company. I recently got a hold of their sheets, pillows, and my personal favorite, a big old fluffy adjustable body pillow. Yes, I said adjustable. You can remove some fluff and make it as soft and squishy as you would like. All of these items are now available on the Big Fig website, and you can bundle multiple items and get discounts as you redo your entire sleep system. Go to the link in our show notes and take the Bed Builder quiz to get exclusive discounts on your new Big Fig. Wait for it. Okay, Sarah, I saved the tough one for last.
I'm nervous.
It's Ozempic related.
Okay.
All right,
so nervous.
Here we go. Hi, Ronald. I've been a huge, pun intended, fan of Wait For It, as well as your appearances on Pop Culture Happy Hour over the years. I felt so validated and understood by your first season and so moved by the episode about your mom. And I was nodding along with your guest this week. I, too, have had a doctor look at me and say, "You're not built to be a runner," and dismiss my knee pain as not worth diagnosing, let alone treating. After finding my own physical therapist, I went on to run a half marathon and a couple of 10Ks. That's why it felt like a betrayal to hear Mr. Evans and you talk about Ozempic and other GLP-1 drugs as if they were garbage, a scam perpetrated on gullible folks, with the implication being that people who use them are foolish or worse. I have lost nearly 75 pounds, most of it thanks to Wegovy and Zepbound. And while it's too soon to say it's life-changing, it is the first time in my life I've been able to lose weight and so far keep it off. I'm happy that Mr. Evans is comfortable running in his body. I just wish you could be happy for me instead of dismissing me and the many like me. I tried for nearly 60 years to be comfortable in my body, tried every single day, practiced self-love, positive self-talk, but I wanted to lose weight every minute of every day. Maybe now I can start thinking about something else. But meanwhile, I am so happy getting dressed, so comfortable in pretty clothing. I don't think anyone else should do it unless they have talked it through with their doctor, done their research, and decided for themselves. My brother is as obese as I was and is having a much harder time with the side effects. He may not stick with it, and I respect that choice. Please don't just toss off such thoughtless comments at something that has so much potential to change lives. And if in the last 10 minutes of the podcast you qualified or modified your judgment of them, I apologize for assuming. After the first few minutes of the discussion of Ozempic, I turned off the podcast in tears. With respect and appreciation.
Wow.
Yeah. So let me play you the interaction that me and Martinez Evans had. I guess the curiosity side of me immediately says to you, like, even now after getting all this acclaim and all this and like kind of being held up as an example or even for this moment of body positivity, do you ever get nervous or concerned that one day they'll just wake up and be like, "All right, we done with that. Back to conventional runners."
Yeah. Like, shit. What is this heron sheet that everybody keep talking about? Like, I'm fighting for my life. Like, what y'all mean heron shit? We just got a little bit of body positivity. Now y'all talking about heron chic and Ozempic, like, and it's like, oh, and I'm like, and it's like, well, you gonna do that? And it's like, like people's stomachs are getting blocked up. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Do I want to participate in that?
Yeah, and speaking of Ozempic, like I think I've noticed that too with colleagues and friends who have been like, people have asked like, "Hey, you gonna get on Ozempic? Like now that you can, now that you could just take a shot and be skinny, like are you gonna get on it?" And my answer is still unequivocally no. And it sounds like yours is too. But like, what do you think about all of that?
I think that like the system is made to do this, right? And I think it's very unfortunate that a lot of people fall into these traps, with the weight loss industry being like a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and just falling for like the same old traps again, as well as like only thing you're really doing is like getting at people's insecurities in order to sell them something.
Yes.
And I think with the weight loss industry, it's highly profitable because it's pills, powders, and stuff that really comes at like a low upfront or production cost that you just sell to people at a very astronomical price.
Okay, so I'm going to stop right there.
Okay.
But I'm fairly certain that's the back and forth that the writer is talking about. When I got the letter, I first was angry because they used the word betrayal, and I felt like that was a strong word to use when talking about this. It felt like a betrayal to hear Mr. Evans and you talk about Ozempic and other GLP-1 drugs as if they were garbage, a scam perpetrated on gullible folks, with the implication that being that people who use them are foolish or worse. So I don't ever want to get bariatric surgery, and I don't want to use GLP-1 drugs, mostly because I feel like those methods of weight loss come with a high cost. And I have an issue with that for myself. I don't besmirch anybody who wants to use them, who wants to use either one of those methods in order to lose weight. As a matter of fact, I've seen people use either one with varied forms of success and failure. And I think that's on the person who decides to use them. Martinez points out that people's stomachs are getting all blocked up, which has to do with the news stories that you read about the complications of Ozempic, of GLP-1 drugs, which this person who wrote the letter also mentioned that her brother was suffering with some of the side effects, which doesn't mean complications. It means side effects, meaning that there is a cost for using these. If I would say anything, that's what I would say. What are you thinking in listening to both what we said and from the letter itself?
This is tough. So it doesn't sound to me like you were saying that people who use GLP-1s are fools, either of you. And I don't believe that, and I don't think you believe that. Something that Lindy West touched on in her episode was just like, it is hard to be fat. And if you as an individual fat person who isn't like going on the internet after benefiting from body positivity and being like, everybody should shoot themselves up with Ozempic, that is fine. I think that's like totally understandable. And like, I would never begrudge someone for doing that, nor I don't think you would either, or this show.
I would not. No, we don't. Not here to wait for it.
The other thing that I think is interesting, and it's not quite like the question that the listener is saying, but I think it's interesting that specifically like Ozempic has been vilified in a way that other methods of weight loss haven't been. Like you mentioned bariatric surgery. That's something that hasn't in the same way been like, if you get bariatric surgery, you're betraying the fat community. Like, I guess this is like a separate tangent, but what do you think about that?
Okay. A couple things. One, I feel like people who have gotten bariatric surgery and people who have used GLP-1s, especially if they are fat, depending on their engagement with fat politics, fat community, fat content, any of that, they have some measure of feeling. I will not say guilt, but I would say they have some measure of feeling about how they are perceived by other fat folks. Of course, how they're perceived by straight size folks. That's all of us. And I think that feeling makes them defensive of whatever their decision is. And for me, reading this, that's how I felt. I felt like I was being made responsible for someone feeling defensive about, I'm sorry, you are nodding so hard. I think you're going to break your neck.
But yes. Sorry, keep going.
I think that's what's happening here. And I'm not saying this in a way to be like, that's your problem, figure that out. But I am saying, I think you should interrogate that. I think you should interrogate why you feel defensive of the GLP-1 drugs. Just like I should interrogate why I feel suspicious of the GLP-1 drugs and of the bariatric surgery. Because I'm sure my feelings are also rooted in defensiveness as well. You know, like I feel defensive about any of those conversations. I even feel defensive when I see other people lose weight because I'm like, great, am I supposed to lose weight? You know what I mean? Like, is that what we're doing now? We losing weight? Totally. That's what we're doing?
I totally agree. And I think to be in fat community and also maybe want to lose weight, all of these things, to be where we are, where this person is, to be all together in this, we all have to sit with a lot of nuance and a lot of discomfort. And I think like, because maybe you're saying, oh, these drugs are being marketed in a way that is hurtful to fat people, that doesn't have anything to do with this person's individual decision. And maybe this person is like, oh God, does it? And that's why they're getting defensive. But I think we can all be in community together and still be on a spectrum of where we are with how we feel about our own bodies and how we feel about losing weight for ourselves. And how we feel about the methods.
So we're going to come back to the mailbag in a moment, but I need to tell you a story about something that happened to me recently. This context is important to understand where my head is right now and how that informs my thinking about Ozempic and bariatric surgery and weight loss generally.
So I think it was the first kind of night where everybody was gathered. It's a Friday night. We're at a tamales restaurant in Austin, Texas. It's like a pretty warm evening, and we're sitting outside.
That is Chloe Prasinos. She's a fellow audio producer and a good friend of mine. In November, Chloe and I attended a conference in Austin, Texas called IMI Fest. The Independent Media Initiative runs it, and it brings together a bunch of creative folks mostly doing audio and video, specifically YouTube. I was there to win an award for Wait For It. We had gathered for a dinner in the backyard of this tamale restaurant, as Chloe said.
And there was like a furthest back section where we had gathered. I had carried many of the tables and chairs over so we could have kind of like an audio area. And there's like potted plants and succulents kind of surrounding this garden patio area, and many different small kind of hot pink metal cafe chairs and tables.
It was a folding chair, kind of metal, looks great outside, surrounded by all the flowers and plants and paintings and renderings of Frida Kahlo on the garden patio.
I'm sitting towards the middle of this kind of string of pink tables, and you're sitting in the corner close to these potted plants on one of the pink chairs.
What Chloe doesn't know is that I wasn't really sitting. When I attempted to sit on that pink chair, I had immediate concern. Though it was thoughtfully selected and worked well in the space, it wasn't exactly meant for a body like mine. So I did what I'm used to doing when I come across a chair like this. I positioned myself on the edge with the majority of my weight forward on my legs. I'm perched, not really sitting. I'm used to doing this because I don't want to embarrass myself, and if something happens to the chair, I can easily stand and walk away. And I'm really concerned about embarrassing myself in this setting particularly. I have some good friends and close colleagues in the room, but I'm not exactly comfortable here. Making Wait For It outed me as a fat person. When I'm in spaces with other creative people, I often wonder if I'm truly one of them or if I'm just a fat guy with a compelling story that was interesting enough to get me into the room. You would think that being a public fat person would make interacting with the world easier. But for me, I carry a general sense of discomfort, especially when I'm around strangers, because despite making this show, I don't want the center of our conversations to be about me being fat or about fat people generally. So at this table with my good friend Chloe, a couple of other friends, and also some colleagues and strangers, I don't do a ton of talking. I focus on my plate and maintaining my perch. We finish eating and another colleague comes over to sit with us, but there are no chairs for him. I stand up and look around to see if there's one in the immediate vicinity. We both notice another chair holding up a plant. We put the plant on the ground and he takes a seat with us. By then, I had already thrown my plate away and felt satisfied from eating, and was starting to feel comfortable enough to join in the conversation a little bit more. I sit back in the chair, no longer perched.
Out of the corner of my eye, I see this like motion, and I like turn my head quickly, and I see you kind of like falling back towards the ground and towards the potted plants behind you. And immediately the kind of attention of the group swivels and points right at you. And I remember saying, "Ronald, whoa, are you okay? Like, what happened?"
The chair broke. I feel myself dropping, but before I hit the ground, I catch myself by putting one hand on the ground and the other on the table and push myself up. Everyone at the table looks over concerned. They're all asking if I'm okay. They're looking at the chair and at me. I'm overwhelmed and embarrassed by the attention. I wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible.
You kind of like making your way back up to your feet from this really awkward kind of fallen position where you and the pink shitty chair are like all tangled up. And you stand up and the first thing you said, "Everybody look away and talk about something else." And everybody, to my recollection, myself included, followed that instruction.
All of the work I did to stop them from noticing I was fat was about as useless as the chair. I am mortified. I had gotten too comfortable. As they looked away, I walked out of the garden, back into the restaurant, out the front door, and back to the hotel by myself. I didn't know what everyone I left behind at the tamale restaurant thought. Chloe filled me in a little bit.
For me, it was just like this shitty pink chair at this tamale restaurant broke. It was very clear that wasn't what was happening for you.
For me, it wasn't that the chair broke. It was that I broke the chair. I've sat in chairs I wasn't confident in, but typically through perching and shifting my weight, I'd managed to avoid breaking any chairs. Kind of the way that I avoid and still avoid anything when it comes to my weight. I avoid wearing button-down shirts because they just don't fit right anymore. I avoid meeting up with the people I haven't seen in a while because I don't want to see their reaction to what I look like today. I spend a lot of time moving uncomfortably because I don't want to remind anyone, nor do I want any reminders that I'm fat. But breaking a chair reminded me that there's no avoiding or hiding my weight from anyone. This is right now, today, as a public fat person. And while we were confronting this question from the listener about weight loss, Ozempic, and defensiveness, I revealed a realization to Sarah I had while walking back to the hotel after breaking that chair. I mean, My biggest struggle right now is that I want to lose weight. Like I want to lose weight. That's a big struggle. And it also feels tough to say on a podcast like Wait For It, where a lot of folks have looked to this content and looked to the stuff that we've said here and been like, yeah, this is a podcast that's like, this is fat liberation. They got it figured out. And it wasn't until I talked to Lindy that I started to realize, oh, yeah, maybe I'm not the only one that's like struggling with this duality in terms of diet culture versus feeling discomfort in my body and what that looks like. And honestly, the discomfort isn't the main thing that bothers me. It's everyone else's reaction to my discomfort. Because on one half, I am being yelled at to, well, you got to go in there and lose weight. Get on that treadmill, stop eating and lose weight and do that. And I feel like the thing that I struggle with is, am I about to be on a diet for the rest of my life? And I don't want to do that. And then on the other half, I got fat folks being like, what? Losing weight? That's fat phobic. How dare you want to do that? Get out. What are you talking about? Love your body. That's body grief. Like there's all these things that they're saying. I'm like, hey, I want to go on hikes and walks, and I know I'm going to lose some weight, and I know I've been stressed. And sir, this has been like a really tough year. So I'm like, it's not surprising that I'm like the fattest I've been in the toughest year of my life. And to say that if the healing process comes, that might also come with weight loss. But just the morality of these two things and the immediate defensiveness I feel about that decision is kind of why Wait For It exists.
Absolutely.
I mean?
Absolutely. Lindy said something that I thought was really powerful, where she was like, I was offered Ozempic by my doctor and I said no because I knew that went against my values.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's so fucking cool. Yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I don't know if it goes against my values. I don't know. I think like I'm always very impressed by her because she has these convictions and she has this like steel reserve. And I think that that's really cool. And I appreciate her as a thought leader. But like to this person and to you, Ronald, and to me and to all of us trying to be in community, like what are your values? And if they're not to like stomp on other people and like make marginalized people feel bad, then just do that. And that's okay. And then it's okay if somebody says something that maybe makes you feel like, oh, well, that's not really exactly what I think. Follow your heart. Be true to yourself. And like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think about this stuff all the time. And I'm not even like, I'm literally like the story editor of Wait For It. And I'm still like, oh, well, I gained a bunch of weight during the pandemic. And then I made all this fat activism stuff. So if I lose that weight that I gained and I get more back to like sort of where I was for most of my 20s, am I betraying people that I love? Am I betraying my community? Like, there's no right answer, I think. Is there?
I know. I think you just said the right answer. I think you got to be true to yourself. I think part of this is being true to yourself, and which I appreciate your permission to give me to be true to myself. But I also think that like each and every individual person assumes that they have the solution for other people. And it's an individualized race and an individualized test that we're having. And if the one thing that Wait For It is doing is pushing people to interrogate themselves and their own feelings, then I think we're doing the best we can. And I think everyone else needs to be trying to do the best they can too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think Wait For It asks people to wade in a very uncomfortable lake of there are no right answers. It is a prism, depending on where you look at it, where the light falls. And that's true. That's what it is. And it's uncomfortable to be someone and to care about things that are nuanced and to like want to really see things from a human perspective. It's uncomfortable, but that's okay.
This has been a tough year. Everything that sucks about living right here and right now sucks worse because my mom is gone. There's a measure of uncertainty that I'm learning to live with. There's a growing chorus in my mind of, I don't know, that reverberates more and more with every day I'm here without my mom. So when I think about discomfort, I think about her absence, but I also think about my weight. Thinking about my weight has never gone away. Through her sickness and death, that thought still remains. And I'm tired of perching on chairs, being jammed into airplane seats, and being nervous about what folks think of me. The listener's question was her defending her decision that she made about her own body. I think what she heard in my comment was judgment of her decision, which honestly, when it comes to weight, feels like the one thing I can be certain of. Whether it's me, Lindy West, Adele, or Lizzo, when you're a fat person, or in some cases have been a fat person, there's always going to be judgment from somewhere about your decisions. I think that's the discomfort I have to learn to live in. No matter what I decide next, there's always going to be some judgment about it. But I still don't know what comes next. And I wish I was okay with that. Wait For It is a production of OhitsBigRon Studios and is a proud member of Radiotopia from PRX, a network of independent, creator-owned, listener-supported podcasts. Discover audio with vision at radiotopia.fm. This episode was produced and written by me, Ronald Young Jr. Our story editor is Sarah Dealy, with sound design and mixing from the Reverend John Delore of Starlight Diner. Sarah, I appreciate your invaluable contributions to the show, both as a story editor and producer. And John, I appreciate you being flexible with this entire season. You're a father and a husband with lots of responsibilities, and you always go with the flow, even when it's not easy. Y'all are both valued colleagues and friends. Show art by Heather Wilder. Episode art by Andy J. Pizza. You were new to the team this year, but I'm already devising ways for us to continue working together. Theme music from Jey Red, with additional music from Mass Potential, The Artist DT, and the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. Special thanks to Chloe Prasinos, the Independent Media Initiative, our listener Aaron for his question about the plane, and to our unnamed listener who really had me interrogating myself and my own defensiveness. You can follow me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok at OhitsBigRon. That's at OhitsBigRon. You can find out more about this show and other OhitsBigRon Studios shows by following us on Instagram at OhitsBigRon Studios. If you have a story about weight you'd like to share with us, shoot us an email at weight@OhitsBigRon.com. That's WEIGHT at OhitsBigRon.com. That's it for season 2 of Wait For It. We'll be back in 2025. And as I always say to you, thanks so much for listening.
Wait for it.
My name is Chloe Prasinos, and I am Ronald Young Jr.'s friend.
Great.
And colleague.
Cool.
And hater, fellow hater.
Don't say that.
Yeah, don't use that part.
Fellow hater, like that, you're exposing something about me there. Hello, Wait For It listeners. I hope you're enjoying the show. And I want to invite you to check out another OhitsBigRon Studio show called Leaving the Theater. Leaving the Theater is a television and film review podcast that started with me reviewing movies as I walked out of the theater immediately after seeing them. It's now expanded to include me reviewing television and streaming titles on my couch as well. These are the freshest take on what we just watched, and it's a lot of fun. On each episode, I talk with my movie-loving friends or colleagues from other podcasts, and we rate whatever we watched from 1 to 5 stars. If you're an overthinker like me, you'll enjoy agreeing and disagreeing with my analysis. Again, that's Leaving the Theater, available everywhere you listen to podcasts. This season of Wait For It is brought to you by Big Fig Mattress. Now, I know there are other mattress companies out there, but Big Fig is specifically designed for fat folks. They've made a quality mattress that will last 20 years with a full replacement warranty and a 120-night trial just to make sure it's the right mattress for you. You know, sometimes when I travel, after a few nights of sleeping on those hotel beds, coming home to my Big Fig mattress is a vacation from my vacation. And listeners, you can have that vacation too. Go to the link in our show notes and take the Bed Builder quiz to get exclusive discounts on your new Big Fig.
Radiotopia from P